My name is Catherine Brett, and I'm going to open up today's webinar by giving you a brief introduction in how to use GoToWebinar. And then my colleague Fatia Sadala is going to introduce the webinar itself. She's the scientific officer responsible for this topic, so she will be your go-to person later on if you have questions. Then Adam Fleischer of Eli Lilly will give a presentation of the topic itself, and at the end of the webinar there will be time for questions and answers. So, how to use GoToWebinar. On the top right-hand corner of your screen, you should be able to see the GoToWebinar panel. It's quite simple to use. You can expand and minimize it. There's a microphone button. You can choose to go full screen. And if you want to attract our attention, you can raise and lower your hand. For the audio options, you've got a choice of the mic and speakers on your computer and the telephone. If you've gone for the mic and speakers option, then there's some tips on the screen to troubleshoot in case you can't hear us. For the phone option, you just click on the telephone and dial the numbers given there on the screen. It automatically comes up with the US phone numbers these days. If you want a number for your own country, click on additional numbers. There are two ways to ask questions. The simplest option is to send the question in writing, just using the questions panel. If you want to ask a question over the phone, then you need to click on the raise hand icon, and then we'll come to you and we'll unmute you. So just a little bit of information on IMI2 Call 5. The call was actually launched on the 9th of July, and all the documents are available on the IMI website. The deadline for submitting your short proposals is the 13th of October. We did already have a webinar on IMI's rules and procedures, and the presentation and recording are available on the IMI website as well. So just before we get started with the main webinar, we are recording this webinar and we'll be publishing it on the IMI website and the IMI YouTube channel. We will publish the presentation on the webinar webpage and we'll send you around the link. And for those of you who haven't opted out of the participant list, we will send that round after the webinar so you can network amongst yourselves and form consortia. So now I will hand over to Fatia Sadala, who is going to give an introduction to the body of the webinar.
So thank you very much, Catherine. And as Catherine Brett just mentioned, we are now talking about the topic on patient engagement and access for earlier identification of Alzheimer's disease. And what we intend to do by organizing this webinar is really to focus on the scientific aspects of this topic. The idea is to get you acquainted with the core, and this to facilitate your work when applying. So we will have the chance to have with us the topic writer who will present and explain the needs and expectations for this topic. And really this webinar is organized to aim at promoting transparency and fairness by providing you all the same information. So what is the webinar going to cover? It will cover mainly the objective of the project, as I just mentioned, which will be presented by the topic writer. The need for the public-private collaboration research. Why is it that such a topic is published under the IMI? The structure of the project, the expected contribution of the applicant, what exactly the topic text is calling for, what exactly are the needed of the EFPIA participant to this project looking for. Then there will be the contribution of the EFPIA participant, which is equally important to make sure that there is a kind of completeness when addressing and running this project, and the key deliverable, which will be the output of the project. So we will not cover the rules and procedure as it was just mentioned by my colleague Catherine, since this has been already done in a previous webinar, and it's still available if you need this information. There are some, tips or recommendations that we could give you and that will help you certainly when applying. It's first of all common sense things like read all the relevant material that are on IMI website. Make sure that you understand all the IMI2 rules, since there is an evolution from IMI1. It's really important that you look at IMI2 rules and take them in consideration and respect them and address them. So one important point here is that all the information that you may request regarding this core topic has to go through IMI. So as I am the project manager of this project when the project will be assigned or the grant will be signed. So it's very important that all your questions are addressed to me via IMI. This question will go to the coordinator and you will get the answer of this question. If it's something that we can address, we will do it. And we will keep anyway inform our partner, the EFPIA coordinator. And if these are questions which are much more specific, then this will go to the topic writer and you will get a follow-up answer to your question. So make sure that you provide all information the reviewer will need to evaluate your proposal. As you know, this will be a process which will, require all the information to make sure that the evaluation is conducted as need be. And of course, start working as early as possible. Now the code has been published, so make sure that you are already on. At the end, when your proposal is ready, don't forget, please, to finalize your submission button by pushing the button of submission, because this is something that has happened at the end of the submission of the project, where some of applicants has had difficulty and missed this button. So please make sure that this is done as well. So some other information that might be important for you is the eligibility criteria. As you know, when we receive a proposal, there are some eligibility criteria that are met or not met. And among the ones which are not met is very often applicant consortium miss the deadlines. And of course, there is no hope then this proposal gets evaluated. Or it might be that the proposal is out of scope. So this we have seen as well. So make sure that when reading the topic text call, you really reply and to this particular topic. Submitted text does not respect the proposal template. As you know, we have a particular template that needs to be followed and that you need to use to submit your proposal, as well as the minimum number of legal entities. There are some numbers of legal entity that should be, present in when applying. So these are more or less the criteria that very often might, be inadmissible because the applicant consortium has not checked properly these criteria, has not addressed them correctly. Then to increase your chance, of course, be aware that it's very important when applying that the partners that are participating to this proposal have a specific expertise that is not redundant, that another partner is not having as well. The idea is really to straighten your proposal in the sense that all the expertise is present and ready, but make sure that there is no redundancy, because this is also a factor that will play a role during the evaluation by the reviewer. All objectives, of course, of the call needs to be addressed, and make sure that the impact of the proposal is as important as the scientific excellence of the proposal itself. So this is to help you to have network, to make sure that you have possibility to add the necessary expertise to your proposal. It is not to help you to make a proposal from scratch, because you already have your network and your contact in this particular field. But as you know, we try to make sure that you get the additional expertise eventually that you don't have when preparing your proposal. So network with the fellow participants at this webinar. The list for the participants who agreed will be available. So this is again a source that you can use. We have our IMI partner search tool, and the link is here, and this is very important because you can also get some good contacts from there, and of course get in touch with your local IMI contact point. representative, as well as the Health National Contact Point and the social media through LinkedIn. So for me, this is it. And if you have any questions, we will take them at the end after the presentation by Adam Fleischer, who is the topic writer for this topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fatir. And now I'm going to hand over to Adam Fleischer, who is calling in from Phoenix, Arizona. So he's got up very early in the morning to present this topic to us today. So thank you, Adam, and over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. So as I said, this is Adam Fleischer. I'm a dementia neurologist in the United States and the Director of Global Medical Affairs for the Alzheimer's program at Eli Lilly. This project is being sponsored by both Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca, and we're very excited to present with you this opportunity for funding through IMI2. This project was born of the understanding that people are most often diagnosed in the late stage of Alzheimer's disease, and there is a need to better engage with patients and clinicians to get individuals into the healthcare system earlier for multiple different types of opportunities. So we reach out to you to understand what good looks like in terms of patient engagement and to better quantify what the needs are and different types of metrics and mechanisms that we can use to better engage the public for public awareness and make improvements to the healthcare system to get patients identified with their disease earlier in the stage of diseases. And I don't need to tell you that Alzheimer's disease is a worldwide problem that is growing, and the current clinical paradigm does not support, we believe, or emphasize the need for early detection, diagnosis, and an urgency for action as soon as symptoms for Alzheimer's disease first begin. In fact, the focus is still on later stages of clinical disease, and this creates a barrier to access to available treatments and support services, as well as opportunities for families and patients to enroll in clinical trials to receive the newer medications that are being developed for Alzheimer's disease. We believe there are resources available today that improve patients' health and quality of care if diagnosed and engaged earlier in the disease process, in addition to the need to get patients into the system earlier for when newer disease-modifying therapies come to market. Next slide. So we felt that there was a need to better understand the obstacles to engagement for earlier diagnosis and treatment and successful strategies to overcome them. This will provide information on how to improve the consistency of diagnosis and communication as soon as symptoms begin in Alzheimer's disease, and this will facilitate earlier identification of patients and their progression to earlier care, support resources and referrals, to provide opportunity for the patients for offering recruitment and participation in clinical trials, and to impact patient care once disease-modifying agents are available. Next slide. And we do this by proposing this project to run multiple projects and experiments around Europe of patient access and engagement models in a variety of communities that are successful in identifying and diagnosing earlier stages of symptomatic Alzheimer's disease. We believe this will facilitate driving efficient and earlier identification of patients for entry into the healthcare system and clinical trial programs, develop and enhance resource access models for driving earlier entrance into the healthcare system, and for development of educational and awareness programs throughout the course of the project. So not only the outcome of this project will not only be able to have the metrics and quantifiable measures that are the endpoints of the project, but also to develop programs and provide a service throughout the course of the ongoing project. Next slide, please. In terms of objectives and impacts, we believe that what we intend to do is establish multiple key regional project sites across Europe to identify and test models of efficient earlier identification of mild Alzheimer's dementia and prodromal Alzheimer's dementia patients, prodromal and MCI patients, and awareness of AD risk, and to compare and contrast various patient access models and how they contribute to improved detection, diagnosis, and clinical research in these communities. And one thing I want to point out to you, just as a note, that everything that is in this slide presentation comes from the online document, so there will be some more details that you can gather and to review this material online through the online call document that is available to you. Next slide. And I also suggest that you jot down your questions for the end, because the way that this presentation is set up is that all questions will be at the end. Continuing with objectives and impact, another goal is to assess key tools, mechanisms, and processes for community engagement and patient identification and resource utilization in various communities throughout Europe. Based on these findings, we will establish archetypes of patient access models for implementation in similar communities, in synergy and collaboration with existing country-specific government and non-government stakeholders, and to advocate and distribute these access models for broader application and for replication. Next slide. Some of the key deliverables that I want to mention that we hope for as an outcome of this project are all revolve around the idea of moving the Alzheimer's disease environment towards earlier diagnosis to improve identification of appropriate patients for disease-modifying therapies. And we'll do this by establishing models and guidelines for more efficient patient access resources and tools, enabling and stimulating earlier diagnosis and entrance into the healthcare system, by developing and assessing mechanisms for patients and physicians to enable this earlier conversation, one that occurs as soon as symptoms emerge. Next slide. Additional deliverables, they include developing improved tools for global awareness, encouraging the recognition and assessment of memory problems at the earliest signs and symptoms, and developing resources and tools to educate on a common understanding of the disease pathology at this and its time course, as AD pathology, as we know, develops earlier than symptoms present. Next slide. Some additional and more specific key deliverables are shown here, and also point out that more details are available online in the document. But additional potential deliverables, and our goal was to make this project as open as possible and allow you, the scientists and clinicians, to have the opportunity to tell us what the needs are in the community. So these are really just, what I'm presenting here are really just designed as examples to you, but we're open to hearing what your thoughts are. So some additional ones include to better understand the physician referral system, to development of patient recruitment and outreach tools, evolve mechanisms for earlier diagnosis and trial referrals, enhance and develop improved mechanisms for patient flow, develop improved AD resources for community education, as well as educate and develop local resource availability, because often patients, there are resources available that the public simply just doesn't know are there for them. And registry development for local resources and trials, engage with non-government organizations for more efficient referral resources, and prepare healthcare community expectations for diagnostics and novel therapeutics in Alzheimer's disease, as well as facilitate sharing of best practices. Next slide. This project was designed in the following way. We set it up in two phases. This call is addressing the first and initial phase of the project, Phase 1, it's designed as a 30-month project timeline to prepare and engage in the individual projects. We intend for the projects to be development and implementation of multiple regional models for patient engagement to be done with multiple projects at multiple sites, and to have synergies with existing consortia and organizations. Next slide. At the end of the 30-month period, our intention is to evaluate the success of the programs, and if there's continued interest, we will open a new call for Phase 2 of the project for a competitive renewal and expansion of the project. A duration of up to 5 years for this Phase 2 is being proposed, and will only be initiated after a futility analysis of the progress of Phase 1 and contingent on certain milestones being achieved to justify a Phase 2. These specific milestones have not been entirely developed, and we hope to develop them in collaboration with the academic sites in the project. This Phase 2 extension would aim to provide opportunity to expand successful Phase 1 programs with additional funding. So not only to add additional funding, additional time, and additional academic partners, but also to allow opportunities for the EFPIA partner, new EFPIA partners, to join with more resources from the industry. This phased expansion would allow for timely building on the progress and outcomes of the initial deliverables. Next slide. But I should point out that this initial application is only for the first 30-month phase of this project. This is just an example of how that expansion may look with the initial sites, and again, just the number of 5 sites here is just an example. You need to make a decision about how many sites can be involved based on the budget limitations and time frame of the projects. But just as an example, we have in blue the industry consortium collaborating with the academic consortium, both of which can potentially be expanded for Phase 2 after 30 months. Next slide. Okay, so the Applicant consortium. Participation, we're looking for participation by institutions involved in patient care, education, support, and community outreach, as well as those participating in active clinical research programs and patient organizations that have a focus in the countries of concern and interest for this project. In order to meet the key objectives of the project, an emphasis should be placed on a variety of healthcare and patient population environments spread across key European countries. We're doing this to encourage collaboration between different academic sites and better understand that the different needs that may be present in different healthcare systems and different communities throughout Europe. This may require a network of academic, both basic, translational, and clinical research scientists, regulatory expertise, economic or public health modeling experts, professional project management organizations, and local advocacy organizations. And due to the structure of this phased expansion design, we encourage focused and concrete applications that can clearly correspond to the outlined objectives and that can demonstrate successful inclusion of the expertise outlined above. Next slide. So in general, the architecture and design of the engagement models for methodology of local projects can be run in parallel or in series. For example, you can have repeated and multiple locations for comparisons of different projects. You can have the same project running at different sites, or you can have projects that run in series to each other with expanding goals. And to be run in different healthcare models with specialist primary care physicians, different referral networks, for example. Next slide. I want to give some examples of some different types of engagement projects. Again, there's more details in the online document, but examples of certain types of projects that can be developed can include projects aimed at resource availability, screening tools, educational programs, patient recruiting tools, public awareness, patient flow projects, understanding of economic impact, use of advanced diagnostic tools, how those might engage patients better, bring them into the system earlier, or diagnose them more accurately at an earlier stage, different technologies for patient engagement, alternative care models such as diet programs, exercise program, music therapy, all of these things that might engage patients better and get them into the healthcare system earlier, make them more aware and attract them into the system to get them to come see their physicians. Because until we get patients and caregivers into the front door of the clinician's office, we can't engage them. So if they're walking into the physician's office only when the patient is in moderate stages of diseases, then we can't provide them with all these tools that are available. So patient awareness is a big part of it, but also engaging and taking advantage of collaborative partnerships in your local communities, better use of social media, healthcare data and digital access, and registry development. Next slide, please. And you can use different ways to measure the success of your projects, and some of them are mentioned here, but also I want to mention again that the value of these projects aren't just in these endpoint measures, but they're also in creating the projects and reaching out to the community as the projects are ongoing. But some of the metrics, the endpoint metrics you could use are measurement of change in enrollment in clinical trials, change in patient visits and referrals from your site baseline, change in accuracy of diagnosis, perhaps leveraging biomarkers and advanced diagnostic tools to see how they improve in diagnostic accuracy, change in percentage of earlier stage diagnosis, so see how if there is a shift in the stage at which stage of diseases which you're making diagnoses in your clinics, and change, or for example, change in time from symptom presentation and initial assessment to diagnosis. And again, you can see the call topics for additional metrics and ideas. Next slide, please. Here are some examples of how the industry partners can contribute, but of course we are open to specific suggestions as we cannot entirely understand what the needs of the project will be until the projects are submitted. So we look to you for us to better understand how the EFPIA companies can contribute, as half of the budget that is available for this project is available through contributions from the EFPIA partners, in this case Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca. So we're certainly open to ideas, and these will certainly evolve more once the project is chosen and we have an opportunity to get together and brainstorm on best ways to move forward with the project and best ways that the companies can contribute to the success of the project. But here are some ideas. Data management. The companies can provide support for data management and of the universal metrics and outcome measures, overall project management support, data statisticians and data specialists, industry speakers. We can help provide expert speakers in your communities and help liaison with advocacy groups and provide communication experts, help develop training materials and perform economic analysis and provide advice, provide regulatory support, as well as provide funding and organization for consortium meetings, as well as provide designated work package leaders to help with specific needs throughout the project. Now, cash can be contributed by the by the companies, and both Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca already have in mind how much cash they could provide. So although it would be nice, I do not recommend suggesting that the companies provide all of their support in cash, because that's not going to happen. But there are potentially some cash contributions, particularly for contracting, translation services, meetings, outreach materials, those sorts of things. And then that's on a global level, but on a more local level, we may be able to provide local regulatory expertise, local marketing, and I use that term very loosely. This is not a marketing project. I emphasize this is not a marketing project, but what I meant by that was helping outreach to the public information about your individual scientific projects and get people for recruiting tools into your centers to participate in the projects, as well as local expertise, including educators and training, and provide topic speakers if needed. Next slide. Well, that was my last slide, so we will now open up the floor for any questions.
Thank you very much, Adam. So as Fatia said earlier, while we have Adam online today, you can ask questions directly to him. But after today, if you have any questions, please send them into IMI, and the email address is there, infodesk@imi.europa.eu, and you can also find that on the IMI website. So back to today, you have two options. Sorry, did you want to say something, Adam?
No, I just wanted to emphasize and make sure this is correct, that they should not be sending questions directly to AstraZeneca or Lilly. Questions should be directed towards the IMI.
Exactly, and I mean, if it's a question where we need to go back to the topic writers to get clarification, we will do that, but questions should go through IMI. This is really for transparency and to avoid any accusations of favoritism towards any particular applicants or something. So for today, you can ask questions in two ways. You can ask the question through the questions panel, or you can ask a question over the phone by raising your hand. We do have two questions in already. So one, and I think this is maybe a little bit more for Fatia because it's to do with the evaluation. It's from Karina Carey, and she asks, can you explain redundancy between partners, please?
When I speak about redundancies, when you have the expertise two or three times present in the consortium, while you need to have a multidisciplinary approach, so it's more important to make sure that this is all present in the consortium rather than to have 2-3 participants who are doing the same thing and probably participating for the same work package. So that means that you are not using your your budget accordingly. The idea is to have for each participant a budget, and each participant will have a specific task. And then after that, you have also, of course, the synergies that you have to address together, but this is something else.
Okay, thank you, Fatia. And I mean, you're interested in the evaluation criteria. They are online, and I really would advise you to read them, because that way you can make sure your application addresses all the kinds of things the evaluators are going to be looking for. Adam, did you have something to add?
I did, and I just wanted to add to that a redundancy across different academic sites is allowable for the project. For example, we would encourage, if you have an idea for patient engagement that you want to test or compare to different communities or across different sites, then that certainly is allowable, and that's not the type of redundancy that's being referred to here.
Yeah, exactly. We have a question, this one's more for you, Adam, from Mark van der Kraan. Would a sub-project on clinical validation of a new combination of diagnostic markers able to detect AD in the very early stages fit this project? These markers will provide objective proof of early AD.
It absolutely could be part of it if you have a new diagnostic tool that you think will improve earlier diagnostic and you want to test that against the gold standard or see if you can engage patients earlier. It may simply be that having the technology brings more patients into your clinic. Whether or not the tool is actually valuable as a diagnostic tool can be determined. And it's not really the point of this project to be testing the value. Well, it's not the point of this project to be testing the accuracy of a diagnostic tool, but certainly new diagnostic tools can be used in this project to better understand how to engage patients and bring them into clinics in earlier phases of the disease.
Thanks, Adam. I'd also add as well that, again, this comes back to issues of redundancy and duplication. Your consortium does and your application do have to address all the requirements of the topic. So there's no scope here. If you want to, you can't just submit a sub-project for part of the project. You have to submit an application that will cover the whole topic, and your consortium has to be able to address all of the things required. So just bear that in mind.
And let me also, if you don't mind, let me also emphasize that funding for this project is not intended to be used to develop new diagnostic tools. But certainly new diagnostic tools can be utilized if it fits the goals of the project to see how we can better engage and bring people into the system.
Thanks,
Adam. Makes sense.
We have a question from Emilia Vitali. You talk about regulatory support and local regulatory support. What do you mean by that?
Just in general speaking, and I really defer to the different communities for what the needs might be. If you're working on a project that needs to understand or has limits based on local regulations or global regulations, and you need, if a project needs to engage with regulators for one reason or another, and I'm not really speculating why that might be, then we can help you provide you with expertise for that need.
Thanks, Adam. We have a question from Francesco Paolo Marino. What kind of material could the industry consortium provide, in particular when it comes to supply of materials like burners, post stations, e.g. acquiring and processing images after the magnetic resonance imaging, sites in which to merge these images?
Well, yes, I think all of that is possible. Anything that, well, in terms of materials, there's obviously a potential to provide cash for materials. There's a potential, but that's going to be very limited, and most of the cash will be coming out of the European Commission portion of it. But potential to provide imaging materials, for example, tracers. If one of the sponsors has access to imaging such as PET tracers, for example, it's a possibility that those could be provided as in-kind resources. But yes, anything that could be given by providing people power or processing power or non-cash, what we call in-kind resources from the company, all of that is a potential that the company can provide. So if it's image processing, for example, image storage, image analysis expertise, other biomarkers, other specific expertise, and personnel resources can be provided.
Thanks, Alan. We have a question from Agustin Ruiz. I wonder if you can provide more details regarding running series, evaluating different engagement models, sample size of these runs, etc.
Well, we really designed this to be fairly open to your ideas and your specific needs. And the big limiting factor here, I would have to say, is the budget. Ideally, we want this to be to have multiple projects that are run in parallel across multiple sites in Europe, to have several projects, but sample size and number of sites is going to be limited by budgeting in the project. So you're going to have to really try to understand what some of the costs of your projects will be, which were very difficult for us to guess as we wrote this proposal, because before we actually know what the proposed projects would be. So that was our challenge in writing this proposal, was coming up with a budget and resources without really knowing what the specific needs of the sites would be for those resources or for that budget. That is partly why we made the decision to split this into 2 phases, because in this first 30 months phase, we believe that there are going to be many things that we can learn from this project. We're going to better understand what the budget needs and resource needs are from you, and then we have the option to expand, bring new partners in, and provide bigger resources after the initial 30-month phase. So I apologize if I can't answer that question specifically, but we are open to your ideas in how to fit the project ideas into the budget, make them as big and broad as possible in the scope of that budget.
Thanks, Adam. We have a question from Santiago Fraile. I do apologize if I have not pronounced that correctly, who is writing from Salud Media, a Spanish SME. Their question is on the methodology that can be used to achieve the aims. They say, we are exploring the engagement benefits of gamification with the WHO Collaborating Centre in Primary Care. Do you think gamification techniques will be suitable to the recruitment, education and awareness spreading aims of this project?
Well, I'm not sure I entirely understand what gamification is, but it sounds intriguing, and I will just leave it to say that this project, we designed it to be open to your creativity, and we are looking for new ideas on how to engage the public and get them into clinics so they can take advantage of resources that are available today, because we know that there are ways that we can help patients today better prepare for the future and improve their health. Even though we don't have a cure for Alzheimer's today, we do believe that there are things we can do for them early in the course, not just for their physical health, management of comorbidities, exercise, diet, all of those things that we believe are good for them, but also for future planning, as well as giving them opportunities to enroll in clinical trials to get access to newer medications that are being developed. So with all of those general goals in mind, we are open to any creative ideas that you can bring to the table.
Okay, so Santiago has just sent a little message in saying that gamification is the use of game concepts in non-gaming environments to help a change in behavior. So thank you, Santiago, for teaching us something.
I assume that was what it is, but that's also very broad, but sounds fantastic, and I'd love to learn more.
Okay. We have a question from Francesco Paolo Marino. What kind of contributions are included in project management?
What kind of contributions from the site, or I'm assuming you're asking what kind of contributions are available from the industry partners?
I would assume from the industry partners, yeah.
Right. Again, we want to be as flexible as possible to the needs of the proposal, but at this time we have allotted. We have in mind a certain number of full-time equivalents, hours from employees from each of the companies that can contribute, as well as local European resources and personnel that are available through Eli Lilly and or AstraZeneca. But for example, like I mentioned on the previous slide, we could provide an overall project management. I personally will be dedicating a good portion of my time to supporting this project. So whatever the specific needs of the project are, that will need to be developed. It doesn't necessarily all need to be spelled out in the application. Once the academic consortia and funding is awarded, we intend for the AstraZeneca and Lilly representatives to get together and really get down to the nuts and bolts of what are needed in this project. So those are things that can be developed further once the project is accepted, and we understand that as you apply, you may not entirely understand what all of the resources are and what all the needs are. We're looking for project ideas that can then be developed further through the academic and industry partnership. But some examples would include project management, data management, statistical expertise, those sorts of things. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Adam. There's also a series of questions now, also from Francesco Paolo-Marino, about the different indicative budgets for various things. Could you just clarify, I mean, because I can't remember myself, does the core text set out specific breakdowns of the budget, or is it just global?
You know, we have put together some ideas of what the budget will look like, but they're entirely based on. I don't. Fatia, can you help me to understand what is made public in terms of the budget for this project?
Fatia's just stepped out to get the call text, actually. But unless I'm much mistaken, the call text normally just includes one global budget for the project, and it's broken down into the EFPIA contribution, most of which is in kind, and the indicative IMI contribution. So normally it's up to the applicants to set out for themselves how they think that budget should be broken down.
So let me try and answer that a little bit more specifically. So the budget for this project was based on what the industry partners could provide in-kind resources. That means all of those things I have listed have budget items next to them, and based on the numbers of resources and cash that the industry partners could contribute, where we itemize those as much as possible based on the number of personnel hours we could provide, types of material resources and cash we could provide, then that value number is then matched by the European Commission 1-to-1 to make the total budget for this project, which is just over $4 million. I don't have the specific budget in front of me, but it's just over $4 million. Half of that will be cash, and it's that cash predominantly that will be utilized and available to the sites to fund the material needs and the personnel needs at the sites. And then the other half of the budget, $2 million approximately, will be provided as in-kind support from industry. So I encourage you to work into your budget as much as possible things that we can provide to you, so that the other portion of the budget, the $2 million over 30 months in cash, can be utilized for the specific cash needs at the site. But anything that can be budgeted to be provided by the EFPIA partners that do that, because then that will free up more direct cash available to you for other needs at the site. But beyond that, we're looking to you to help us figure out what the budgeting needs of the project are within those confines.
Yeah, so I've just double-checked, and so Fatia, and the core text really does just break it down by IMI contribution and EFPIA contribution. If you're wondering more in terms of things like what is eligible for funding and what is not, that information is in our rules and procedures, and if you have any questions about specific things that might be eligible or not, I would suggest you send those also to the IMI office, to info.desk@imi.europa.eu, and the same goes for any questions you might have about our application procedures, funding, what organisations are eligible, what kind of costs are eligible. Send those to us and we'll get back to you.
And if I may, I mean, it's very important that you align your budget with the expected contribution that you have to provide in the project. This is kind of a logical equation, let's say.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, that appears to be it for now for the questions. So I will say thank you very much to Adam for getting up at a hideously early hour to come and talk to us. I've just seen actually Birgit Steckelhamann who's put her hand up, so I will unmute her and allow her to talk. So Birgit, I've just unmuted you if you would like to go ahead and make your comment.
Okay, thank you. So just, my name is Birgit Steckelhamann. I also support for Lily. I just wanted to make one more comment with regard to the question that has been raised earlier about project management. The call does foresee very much to receive applications, including a professional project management organization, which is dealing the day-to-day operational issues and elements that is needed in order to make this project successfully. Just wanted to add that to the comments that I had made earlier.
Okay, thank you, Birgit. So in the absence of any other questions, as I said, I will thank Adam for getting up early and giving a very useful presentation, and Fatia for her part as well today, and to you for all of your questions. As I said, if you have any other questions about the rules or the topic in the coming weeks, then just send them to us at IMI, and we will answer those for you.
Can I make one more comment?
You may, of course.
You know, so the idea here is not that we have many different applications from different individual academic sites. We really encourage that different academic sites network with each other and form networks that will provide the best applications for the project. So the idea is that there are academic organizations around Europe that are collaborating together in a single academic consortium to provide the strongest application.
Exactly. So I mean, again, this does come back to the evaluation criteria. If the partners are very clearly looking for a network, if you don't have a network, you probably won't be successful. So really do have a close look at the core text and make sure that your consortium can do everything that it wants, that you need to do. So on that, I will wish you all good luck with your webinars. I will wish Adam a very nice day. His day is just beginning. And we will hopefully get some nice applications from you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.